Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Welcome to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. As you know, my name is Mary Baker, and I'm here to give you the education, the tools, and the motivation to identify exactly what's in your way today and what you can do about it. So let's get to it. So last week, we introduced the idea that your formative years were the big setup for your self-concept. This week, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the actual messages you received that over time formed your core beliefs about yourself. And thus far, your life has played out those beliefs. But first, a shout out to those of you who continue to let me know that you are loving the episodes and you're doing the work and you're sharing it. So it's so good to hear that, because you're really putting it into action. And I just want you to stop for a moment and think about the huge ripple effect that each of you is creating in your life and how it's affecting those around you and those folks around them and so on and so forth. So when you get stuck or you get frustrated or you get tired, remember that there's a lot of purpose to this work that is bigger than just us. Okay, so what do I mean about messages? What I mean are things that are said to a child, intimated to a child, and silent messages that we received as kids growing up, and they formed beliefs about ourselves, about other people, and about life. Whether we are cognizant of this or not doesn't really matter. Typically, we can recall some things, and some things are actually pretty buried. So some of this is going to be pretty obvious today. Some of it won't. I just want you to take this episode and think deeply. And if you have to listen to it a couple times, that's totally fine. In fact, I encourage that, because I think every time you listen, you can dig a little bit deeper. So if you're driving or you're walking or you're jogging, you might want to replay it so you can write some of these things down as I go. If not, just see what comes up in your heart and your head. So I want to start out with the obvious, and those are the negative messages that a child hears growing up. And where those messages come from matter. If they come from their primary caregivers, that's huge, because like we've been talking about on those episodes, that's how your self-esteem was formed. And when you were little, you took what they said as gospel because you didn't know any better. Your first grade teacher, your older siblings, the kids in the neighborhood, it's a big deal. Coaches, aunts and uncles even, your friends' parents. So just kind of conjure up some of those folks in your life when you were growing up as you're thinking of these things. What I also encourage you to do is whatever hits your heart, just trust it. It's coming up for a reason. It's resonating for a reason. So let me describe some of these negative, or what I call limiting and shaming messages. Some are worse than others. Some produce obvious damage. Some you might have to take a little digging and understanding and learning to see what the real impacts are. I mean, the first one, you were a mistake. And parents can say this even without meaning to. I had to get married because I was pregnant with you, is an example. You could never do what your brother does, or why can't you study hard like your sister? See how well he's behaving? I want you to be like that. I couldn't pursue my dreams because I had to take care of you kids. We're all so disappointed in you. Shame on you. What were you thinking? Why would you think that? Are you sure you can do that? Better be careful. I don't think they're going to like that if you try that. I'm not sure you can handle that. Here's some more. Who do you think you are? Don't outshine others. You sure you're strong enough? Are you sure you deserve that? Boy, you sure have put on weight lately. Do you really think you should be eating that ice cream? That sounds a little complicated and a little tough. Maybe you should just stick with what you already know. Why do you have to be so loud? I'm not sure you're smart enough to take that class. That might be a little tough for you. You're taking a really long time to get that done. And finally, now look what you've done. So, I have heard many, many times over the years something also very sad when clients relate to me that, and it only takes once, that in 5th grade their band teacher or their art teacher or that one basketball coach gave them the message either overtly or covertly, passive-aggressively, that they couldn't cut it, that they would never be able to tackle this or attain this or do this. And what's so sad is that person will never know. That person will never know what would have happened if they explored that dream, that maybe they could have acquired more talent if they were less anxious, if they could have worked hard and made that happen. And I just want to stop for a moment and talk about that. And if you have kids, just remember that. You be careful. Their self-esteem is so fragile. And they're looking to us, and especially if we are in a place of authority, as a coach, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a mom, as a dad, as a big brother and sister, because we're kind of holding up that mirror for them that they're looking into so naively. They take in what we say as truth. They're supposed to be able to do that. And there's a few silent messages that are never spoken in the family, but oh boy, are they safely assumed. The message that no one is really interested in what you have to say, this is done at the dinner table or in a group when people just change the subject really quickly, never acknowledge what you say, or ignore what you say. That sends a really strong message that you are invisible and we don't really like what you're saying and you don't have a valid message to share. Or they sigh or they frown or mumble when you announce something or say something. Siblings will smile or laugh, giving you the message that, what you think or what you're expressing, especially if it's something really vulnerable, like, hey, I want to try out for football, that your idea is silly or crazy. The other aspect to this is those messages right there that I described are called global shaming. They're done in front of other people. And that is the most horrendous kind of shaming to hear because it's public. And it feels like you're being singled out and you're being just ridiculed in front of other people. It's just so devastating. It can even happen as an adult when you get the email from the boss that was sent to everyone and it's pointing out something that you screwed up. No names are named, but that's even worse because then you don't feel safe and you don't know. These messages, even if they're constructive, should always be shared in private. So what happens when we hear these messages over time, even if you blow this off or dismiss it and say, I want you to really think about it because a lot of times these messages created core beliefs. These are deep-seated subconscious beliefs. Some of them you're probably not even aware of. And here's the thing. Whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not, whether we choose it or not, our beliefs, our core beliefs about ourselves and about the world are driving the damn bus, no matter what we say. So it's really powerful to look at these, figure out where they came from, turn them on their head eventually. And that's what we're going to do today in this episode. And you could take this episode so much deeper. I mean, we don't really have time to really flesh this out, but my hope is that you take what you're hearing here and run with it. So here comes the damage, right? So if I heard some of those messages that I mentioned earlier, and there's probably a lot more that you guys are thinking of that I'm not even mentioning, and that's okay. I want you to personalize this and see if you can remember what came up for you. Like what resonates. What do you remember? Things that you were told or messages that you received in one way, shape, or form. And again, as kids, we can also distort some of this, so I don't want to get in the blame game. No, you could have really twisted something and assumed it was negative too, and that's okay. That's all right. All that matters at the end of the day is that we form these core beliefs. What I like about that is we can unform them too. We can form new ones. So some of the negative core beliefs that I might acquire through hearing all this negative messaging, the first one is I am not attractive. If I'm told that I'm getting a little pudgy and I shouldn't be hitting the ice cream, I'm going to get the message I'm not attractive. I'm not very good at school. Others probably find me boring, especially if people ignore me at the dinner table. I'm not talented enough. I might fail. My family's not going to like this at all. I'm not really sure I can do it. I don't think I'll be able to handle the stress. I'm not smart enough for that. I might be disappointed. I don't know if I'm physically capable. I don't even know what I'm good at. Others will be really disappointed in me. Others won't support me stepping out and taking a risk. I shouldn't draw too much attention to myself. No, I really shouldn't step out and try that. Who do I think I am anyway? How dare I get that selfish? I'll probably blow it anyway. It's not worth it. So you can see all the fear behind these core beliefs. And if I believe these, I am not going to think that I'm worthy and lovable. I'm not going to take a risk. I'm not going to stick my neck out there and try out for something. I'm not going to risk rejection and abandonment. I'm going to play out these beliefs. Even if I take a stab at something, here's the backdoor way, I'll sabotage it, right? I'll do something to blow it at the last minute. I'll blow the interview. I won't turn in the paper. I won't work hard on a project. And so I want you to think about some of those backdoor ways you might sabotage, even if you do try to step out there, because you have this internal conflict going on. And I think that's what's so powerful is half of you knows damn well you're good at something, but then other people have told you crap about that. And you're not sure which to believe. And again, if you grew up in a family that was doing this, my money is on you also grew up in a family that made it hard for you to trust your thoughts, feelings, needs, and choices, like we've been talking about. Because self-trust is what this is all about, as you can see. So what is the opposite of this, right? I mean, what are some of the positive things that could be very true about you if you had heard these? This is what you were kind of supposed to hear. Now, there's controversy around this, a little bit around acknowledging a child's accomplishments too much. So I don't want to go heavy on that part because I kind of agree. Now, we're not talking about setting up conditional self-worth for you, that if you got straight A's, you'd be okay. Like, you should have heard messages like, wow, you have such a big heart. You're so unique, and we love that about you. I'm so proud of you. We love hanging out with you. You have great ideas. You are so honest. We know you're really good at basketball. We want you to trust what feels right for you and follow your gifts. Focus on what matters to you. You're doing so well. Keep at it. Keep working hard if you really want that. We're very proud of you for trying. We trust you'll find your own way. We know you'll figure it out. We want you to focus on your integrity and what you're passionate about. The world needs you. You have really great things to bring to the table. What you say matters, and you can always try again. And finally, you are enough, period. Not conditional upon anything. You are complete, and you are enough, and we love you as is. We may not like what you do all the time, but we love you as is, as a person. So that's really huge because, again, with self-esteem, like we've been talking about, the more you feel like you love yourself as is, your shame decreases. And ironically, you will go out and develop more abilities and use your gifts and try new things and take risks. So that's what's really cool. So some of the positive self-beliefs that would have been formed out of hearing those messages are, I am content with my appearance as it is now. Would I like to improve it? Sure. I'm smarter in some areas than others, and that's okay. I don't want to be good at everything. I have talents because everyone has talents, and there's no logical reason to think that I don't. I have friends who like me for who I am. I am a worthwhile person. I'm working on getting healthier physically and emotionally. I might just succeed. I really secretly think I can do this. And I can do it a little bit at a time if I want. I bring some unique things to the table. I have my own fingerprint. I am passionate, I'm smart, I'm creative, and I'm kind. I can give myself time to learn and work on those weak spots. I can do anything I set my mind and heart to. I'm just now beginning to discover what my gifts are, so I don't even know what they are yet. So how can I say I don't have any? People around me would really actually benefit from seeing me happy and fulfilled. I'm learning how to handle stressful situations. I'm really proud of the skills I possess and the things I've accomplished so far, and I don't want to forget that. I have faith in me, and I can trust myself, and I get to choose. So those are some of the positive core beliefs that you want to use to replace the negative ones. Did you notice they weren't all perfect? Some of them were a process comment, like I'm in process, like I'm making progress towards. The reason why I put some of those in there is because you can't lie to your subconscious. It's going to blow it off. You need to make it more realistic and doable and hopeful. Did you hear all the hope in those statements? So I want you to come up with some of your own. Even if you just work on one at a time, it is so powerful because remember, as I've been saying, empowerment comes from doing. So as you practice those things, you will see yourself differently over time. If you practice being healthier, you're going to see yourself as more fit and healthier and committed to a healthier lifestyle. That's going to become a part of your repertoire. It's going to become truth about you. And what I love is you can always redefine and tweak that truth whenever you want. So there's some sneaky ways that these negative and or positive beliefs can show up in your life, and I'm going to focus on the negative, and I think you're smart enough to figure out the positive opposite. So one of the ways is our physical appearance. There's a million ways we can do this. We can not take care of ourselves physically. We don't take time to get our hair cut or to have a spa day or just do some self-care, whether that is going shopping for yourself, taking care of your clothes. I'm not talking about status or image. I'm really talking about feeling good about it, feeling like you take good care of yourself. Your physical health, your medical health. It's about getting enough sleep, decent nutrition, exercise, downtime, doctor appointments. It's about setting boundaries, right? So our physical appearance can really reflect how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves on the inside. And the goal at the end of the day is to get those two to match. Remember, your insides matching your outsides. it's helpful to look around and see that oftentimes your life is reflecting what deep down you think you deserve, no matter what you try to tell yourself. Not very easy to admit. Like who we surround ourselves with, too. Are we settling for less than what we need? What we deserve? Do those folks around you challenge you in really great, healthy ways? Or are they happy to stay stuck? Are they terrified to move out of their box, no matter what that box is comprised of? Because if they are, they might need you to stay stuck too, because it's more comfortable. What about who you're dating or who you have married or will eventually marry? Oftentimes we can surround ourselves because we settle for people who aren't very emotionally mature. People who can't really, really value you because they don't really value themselves yet. So in essence, they're going to end up holding you back because they're going to feel threatened when you want to move forward, because then their fear is that you won't want them anymore. Do you see the self-esteem connection here? Another big one is what we tolerate. And if you haven't already, go back to episodes 10 through 18 and listen to the boundary episodes, because we really flesh this stuff out there. But for now, we want to look at the obvious, abuse, physical abuse. Neglect of your needs is a big one too. That's benign neglect is easy to blow off and not see and minimize and make excuses for. Like when your partner doesn't do any work. Like when you take all the responsibility to pay the bills and they don't. Neglectful of your emotional needs. Is it always everything about them and their mood and what happened to them at work today and so on and so forth? Is there room for your needs? There's actual mistreatment. There's verbal disrespect. What about the workplace? These things can really play out there too. Are you working in a place that honors you enough? Is it respectful? Are there good boundaries? Is it emotionally safe? Are you settling for less salary or position than what you're really capable of? And finally, our physical surroundings can be a big reflection. And I know you've heard pieces of this before, that our physical surroundings kind of reflect how we're feeling on the inside. What does our car look like? Is it nasty? Is it a mess? Or is it clean? I'm not going for perfect here. I'm just going for good enough. What about your house and your yard? What does that look like? Is there chaos everywhere? Is there a lot of deferred maintenance? Things that need to be taken care of that you've put off? Is there neglect? Do you have lots of unfinished projects? So everything is kind of everywhere and it feels disorganized. Self-care can take so many forms, and it's really important to look at and stop and take notice every once in a while and ask yourself, what's going on and how am I doing? This is not a time to beat up on yourself, but I think it might be really powerful to even start outside in and notice how you feel when you go vacuum out your car, or you get it washed, or you make your bed, or you clean out your closet, or you pay the bills, or you get rid of the clutter, you rake the leaves. It's self-care. It's not just about personal responsibility, even though that is a big part of self-esteem, but you're showing yourself what deep down you think you are worth. I know this sounds crazy, but are you worth having a clean car? Now, of course, on the face of it, you'll roll your eyes and say, of course I do. Really? When's the last time you cleaned your car? We have to kind of look at that stuff. What are we making real in our life? What kind of beliefs are driving the bus and why? So I want to talk about some of these beliefs and flesh them out a little bit. Now, I'm going to have this available as a bonus download. So if you're not already a tribe member, go ahead and sign up at the show notes at ownitpowercast.com, and then you will get all the downloads for every episode. It's very cool. If you're a tribe member, you already have this in your newsletter. So I'm just going to go through a couple of them, but you can grab the download to get the rest. So if you heard the message, for example, don't be a show-off at the dinner table in the living room when you were a kid. What you'll end up doing is not performing. So maybe you don't become that teacher you always wanted to be, that entertainer. You're going to be a lot less likely to showcase your talents unless that's supported. You're not going to want to jump out there and really, truly risk expressing yourself. You may keep a lid on that. You can even keep a lid on your energy. The "I'm not sure you can handle that" message intimates that you are not strong, you're not competent enough, you're not mature enough, so please don't take that on. And what I want to tell you is only you get to decide that. Don't rock the boat is a big one. Keep status quo, don't make big changes. So you're not going to set the necessary boundaries with others and situations that you need so you can move forward. In other words, you're not going to have an easy time asserting yourself. And the final one, you're taking way too long to get that done. The message is don't attempt things that you perceive must be done quickly. This message will thwart your creativity. Maybe you like to take your time and do a really good job. It's going to hurt your ability to find out what you can create. So go grab that list and sit with that. I encourage you to do some journaling around it if you want to, and see what comes up for you and see what you want to heal. Okay, so hopefully by now you have a better sense of the really deep impacts of how your core beliefs were formed and how they are showing up all around you and in your life. So what I want to do is do some sentence stems for those of you who aren't familiar, that I'm going to give you some sentence starters and you're going to come up with 3 or 4 quick endings. And the rule is just trust whatever comes up for you. Don't think about it. Just write it down if you're in a place where you can write. If you're not, if you're walking, if you're driving or whatever, I will also have this as the other bonus download. So later, you can print it out. You can do these when you have some time. You ready? Number 1. Some of the negative shaming messages I received were... Some of the negative shaming messages I received were... Number 2, if I looked at who gave me these messages, if I looked at who gave me these messages, Number 3, if I were to really look at the impact these have had on me throughout my life, if I were to look at the impact these have had on me throughout my life, Okay, so take a moment and think about what came up for you as answers or endings to those sentence stems. Don't judge it, just accept it. Usually there's some good and bad and ugly and indifferent. Sometimes there can be some very difficult emotional truth that comes up, and that's okay. Doesn't mean you have to do anything with it just yet. All these exercises do is get you back in touch with the real self, what's really going on. So today we looked at the powerful impact that early messages that you received, and maybe some that you're still receiving today, are really impacting what you believe about yourself. And what I want to challenge you to do is I want you to turn all that on its head, and I want you... Here you go. Come up with the evidence. Are they true or not? You got to prove it. I want you to prove it to me, especially the ridiculous, shaming messages. How do you know that's true? What I think you're probably going to find is even if there's a tiny bit of truth in some of them, most of it was garbage. We want to get our messages from people who have good self-esteem themselves and have no reason to put us down or to distort our sense of self. In fact, they're going to want the opposite. They will naturally say things like, hey, wow, look at you. That's wonderful. People that have no ulterior motive other than to express it to you because it's for your highest good and because it is true. I have clients oftentimes go around and interview their friends and say, hey, what are 3 things that you think are really true about me? Now, this should be constructive, right? In terms of what do you think my gifts are? What do you think is true for me? Like when you think of me, how would you describe me? I had a client do that the other day. It was really cool because it brought tears to his eyes what his brother and his best friend and his colleague really wrote about him. And I was listening to these and I thought, yep, that is him. It's so true. That's what's so cool. What you're going to find as you work through these is you're going to formulate or come back to or rediscover or discover for the first time what's really true for you. And even if there's things there in that truth that you want to change, that's okay. Most of it's going to be some really good stuff. So my encouragement is do this work, turn those old beliefs on their head, embrace the real truth about you, and the best part, get out there and start tweaking your environments around you so that they reflect your truth. And it's going to feel so much better, I promise. So again, go to the show notes page, download what you need to download. If you're already a subscriber and signed up for the Tribe News, you have gotten everything in your newsletter today, so you're all good to go. And if you found this helpful, please put out a positive review. Remember, you're going to be helping others find this podcast and get the wonderful help that they need, and you're going to make the world a better place. So, like I always say, pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now so you can really own it later.